I came across a study yesterday that suggested that 1 in 7 people in the UK are neurodivergent, and yet only 31% of people with conditions such as autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, and dyslexia are in employment. Apparently, doubling the rate of employment for autistic people alone would boost this country's economy by up to £1.5 billion. Even if one is entirely cynical and views human beings as solely productivity machines, it is clear that we're wasting the potential of talented and able people to give to our country. We are, though, I hope, much more than just about economics and productivity. I hope that we are a people and that we are a nation who care. At this school, at our school, Prior Park College, we try hard to value the differences of all our students and all our staff. We know that our diversity is powerful. We can see that diversity in many ways. Prior Park is co-educational, so there's some diversity there. Prior Park has students from about 30 countries around the world. So we've got a massive diversity of culture and nationalities. We've got a diversity of sexuality, of faith, of political belief, and as this Thursday's band night will show, a huge diversity of musical taste. We know that all our people are different and diverse in a range of ways. That's amazing. However, it's only recently that schools and educational establishments more broadly have truly begun to acknowledge neurodiversity as something even remotely positive.
One challenge I've faced time and time again is a fear of judgment from both me and others. This fear of judgment led me to mask in a pretense to conceal my true identity from others. However, in the process of doing so, I lost years of fun, laughter, and particularly an opportunity to genuinely appreciate the good, the bad, the brilliant, and the ugly about myself. You see, the issue of masking is not that neurodivergent individuals are holding up an image that is untrue to the world. It is in this process of self-doubt and self-concealment, one starts to lose who we want to be and who we really are. Being bullied and mimicked for my autistic traits for years, I have picked up a compendium of labels, which I'll share with you now. Some innocent ones: pretentious, pompous, naughty, weird, pushover, posho, academic weapon, pleasure to teach, too polite. Some not so innocent ones: a product of bad parenting, flirt, too friendly, a bad friend, or my most hated phrase, "You're just a bit special." As you might imagine, these labels became a core part of my identity, and as I learnt through my support from LDP, a weight I'd been bearing for far too long. That's the thing. These insults at my sense of self may seem acceptable to foreign eyes, but each time someone commented on my appearance, the way I dressed, the way I spoke, the way I communicated, or even down to my laugh, which has been imitated many a time at my past school, I started to form a core belief that others knew me better than I knew myself. This, of course, wasn't surprising when all anyone could do was imitate me to make themselves feel better about their own differences, and quite frankly, exercise their own sense of neurotypical superiority over what they deemed as too special or too eccentric behaviour. But of course, this core belief led to hyper self-awareness, compulsively trying to search in others' reactions and in others' opinions of me, who I was and what I should be doing. I have a memory of myself in year 11 trying to imitate someone else's accent so I could improve myself. At that time I thought it was a ticket to me being accepted and appreciated, but it only came with other problems. As most people know, I love English, but sometimes I wonder how much of that label have I put on myself to please others, and how much have I lost that joy of reading a book and living another's reality instead of analysing the texture and quality of the language printed. I was lonely and didn't feel seen unless I was constantly academically proving myself, and it was and still is exhausting. I wanted someone to give me a manual to tell me what to do and how I should behave. You see, loneliness is tough because it doesn't just take one interaction to change this. This was because I wanted to be everything to everyone and never left any time to actually ask, who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? I'd also like to make this clear that these labels haven't just been put on me. I've heard of or heard these types of labels or labels similar to the like being placed on other neurodivergent students across all schools, state and private. Before I came to Prior, I thought there was a glass ceiling around the privileged, and that I was one of the unlucky few who lived with a neurological difference that led to my privilege bubble being popped a little. But seeing the other neurodivergent students at Prior, I realised that so many students across the world experience this feeling of not fitting in. There is such a lovely sense of community up in LDP, and it is such a privilege to be able to experience the space up there with others who are so amazing and have shared similar challenges. It's really important for me to interact with others who I wouldn't normally interact with here, and it's a space that I would receive largely without judgment. I had to mention Tolstoy as a Tolstoy fan, so I'll leave with this. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. And in this instance, I needed to change myself back to who I wanted to be.
We are all different. I'm different, you're different, but that's what makes life beautiful. Neurodivergence throughout history has been a topic of prejudice, stigma, stereotypes and hate, with people being neglected, marginalised, and not given a fair opportunity in life, all due to their neurological makeup. Fortunately, we live in a time where neurodivergence is adequately recognised and acknowledged in society and educational spheres. But despite this, an ever-looming stigma overhangs all attempts at progression, change and championing. This should not be the case. Neurodivergence should be championed, and differences should be encouraged and embraced, as everyone deserves to be taken seriously and given a fair opportunity regardless of their situation and how they are genetically made up. 1 in 7 people in the UK are classed as neurodivergent, and it's untenable that more than ever, neurodivergence is underrepresented on an educational level and a wider societal level. People with neurodiversities deserve to feel like they belong, that they have the ability to achieve as much, if not more than their peers. Thus, I think it's time to rewrite the narrative and recognise the people who feel underrepresented and undersupported, and give them the opportunity and encouragement to fulfil their goals and be proud of their difference. Through my own personal life, I've been repeatedly told I'm too loud, too much, that I'm too disruptive, that I'm too far from the quote-unquote norm. On my first day of primary school, I got sent home for being too talkative, the next for being too loud, and the third for fidgeting too much. And from there on, I was labelled as naughty. That's all I knew it was, me being naughty. So did the teachers and my peers, my parents, my siblings. I was the naughty one. This persisted up until year 5, when after continuous meetings, suspension, disciplinaries, my parents finally took the initiative to take my situation and behaviour more seriously, which resulted in meetings with doctors, educational psychologists, psychiatrists, and only then did I get the ultimatum I so desperately needed. I had ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The explanation behind all the naughtiness, the disruption, the questions, the fidgeting, the loudness, the too muchness, only then did the teachers have more sympathy. Only then did people start recognising me for me. Only then did I feel like I somewhat belonged. This didn't last for long. It created fuel and ammo for ostracisation, segregation and prejudice. Teachers placed me on my own special table, my own special time-out session, my own special treatment, which despite their attempts left me feeling more isolated than ever. Despite the diagnosis and the support and recognition, it was all absent. I was led to believe that ADHD was something that I should be ashamed of, that I was different, and that consequently, difference was negative, which was messaged to me by my peers, teachers, and even my own family at points. It wasn't until I realised that what supposedly was wrong with me was such a beautiful gift I've been graced with. It allows me to hyper-focus on topics I'm insanely passionate about. It allows me to be creative and aspirational, and allows me to know myself and who I am. Through the support of my nearest and dearest, and through the support of some incredible teachers and people I've met in my life, I've rewritten and challenged my own preconceptions about ADHD and neurodivergence, which then unlocked doors for me I didn't think were even possible for me when I first originally got my diagnosis, aged 8. Through challenging and the use of my ADHD to my advantage, it's allowed me to excel in subjects I'm passionate about and be taken seriously in an academic setting. It's allowed me to be creative and excel in drama, and through using it to my advantage, I've been able to be the best version of myself. Thus, I implore each and every one of you to challenge and rewrite your own misconceptions and prejudices when it comes to discussing, relating, and exploring issues and topics around neurodivergence. Refrain from making blanket statements, refrain from labelling people, and refrain from commenting critically. and using insensitive names and titles. Instead, encourage and embrace people's differences and quirks, as they should be celebrated. They make us different, they make us unique, and enable us to see the world in a different way. Neurodivergence is no longer a topic which should be spoken about critically. Neurodivergence will be recognised, championed, and it will be properly spoken about with the respect and appreciation it deserves. I hope that in my life and in yours, the correct treatment and accessibility arrangements become available. I hope that the 2.5 million adults who are currently undiagnosed in the UK are given the opportunity to discover what makes them unique, so they can receive the support they need. I hope that children aren't aimlessly chucked out of schools for being too talkative, loud, and fidgety. And I hope there is more representation in the media and the arts. And I hope that the ostracisation, which is still ever present, is a thing of the past.
You've heard from Felix and Charlotte about their journeys, and they haven't been easy. I'll be honest with you, schools would be really easy to run if students were all the same. There'd be no pastoral issues because everyone would agree about everything. There'd be no worries about catering for the ways that people approach their learning because everyone would learn in exactly the same way. There are some schools that come pretty close to that. There are some schools which work really, really hard to knock all the edges off their students, and where students come out as if they've been through a cookie cutter, where students are so similar as to be identical. Those schools are pretty simple to run, but I don't believe that they're inclusive. Those schools often aren't happy places because young people there are too often forced into a mould. We aren't like that. Our tagline is "Room to be me," and we live that truth every single day. Prior Park isn't a perfect school, but Prior Park is a school that consciously tries to serve all its young people. It's a school which embraces diversity, including neurodiversity. It's a school where there is no stigma about being different. It's a school where there is, instead, gracious acceptance and kindness. We talk a lot about being a school with love at its heart, and a school with love at its heart is a school where everyone should feel that love, no matter what makes them different. Thank you.